Our guest for this hour is seated, and as we look into certain issues, we're going to be talking about, all right, the deputy president. You don't really have a choice if a presidential candidate has named his or her running mate. You choose this person based on his or her selection that has been made by the presidential candidate. So you vote in two-piece as the presidency, but the questions abound already. This person must be the deputy president. If not, then why not? Well, Odhiambo Otieno wants to tell us today that there's certain parameters that must be met for somebody to be a running mate at the presidential level. And those are the things that we're going to be talking about this morning. First of all, good morning.
Good morning.
You're well?
Absolutely.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I
wanted to greet you in vernacular, but then the greeting has just disappeared, and I will not that's exactly what I wanted to say. And if it were you, how would you answer? Abbas, exactly.
Very good.
You see, now you've answered all my questions for me. A lazy approach to all of this. Yeah. Good to see you. Before we get into this conversation this morning, Dennis has taken us to Equatorial Guinea.
Yes. And in Equatorial Guinea, there's a gentleman called Teodoro Obiang. He's been president for 47 years, since 1979. Is it? Yeah. You know, it is also a country, the only African country that speaks Spanish, but they also speak French and Portuguese. So what that has done to the citizens of the country is, in diplomatic circles, because they're able to speak different languages, they stand out, especially in the continent, right? But it's a country as well that is rich in oil. But that oil, like another African story, it goes west, then you buy it expensively. So one hopes with economic opportunity that lies ahead, and with the problems that the world sees today because of the Strait of Hormuz, perhaps they become the engine, or they become the power that Africa needs, right? But let's go to the proverb.
Right.
He who listens builds a house. He who talks tears it down. How would you interpret it?
He who listens builds a house, but he who talks tears a house. In the construct or concept of building, you require more of action, unlike talk. And in the consequence of the opposite is that when you talk much, then you invite problems. And so you tear down a house. Yeah.
Which problems?
When the letter could
you talk much, but you do little. You invite problems. Which problems?
Problems.
I don't doubt that those problems might surface as we have this conversation.
Okay.
So somebody asked that question yesterday, and when I read the question, because on a different forum, and I read the question, and the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, what a dumb question. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I said, actually, you know what? It's actually a very intelligent question. This person was asking from a place of ignorance, and not ignorance deliberate, ignorance that they didn't know. And they really wanted to know what the situation was. And I thought, this is actually a good question. A lot of us may act like we know, but we do not. Do you vote for the deputy president? And I thought, obviously, because, but it's not obvious. This person essentially is the choice of the presidential candidates. That person is their running mate. So if you're voting for a Dennis and Kevin presidency, you are voting the already pre-packaged choice for deputy president that the presidential candidate has made. So if that's the case, does it matter what you think about who the deputy president should be?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does in so many ways, because the deputy president is not just an ordinary person. And first of all, let's start from the infrastructure of the Constitution that then defines the presidency as is. And you find that in that infrastructure, the deputy president is now not serving at the pleasure of the president de facto. But of course, we know that they serve at the pleasure of the president. But in law, that's why today Rigathi is in court trying to canvass his impeachment. The deputy president now must be elected together with the president on a ticket. So it means it does not give a chance for monkey business, because initially the deputy president position was used to balance what I call the concept of the saints and the sinners in power. And that is that the president must always stand out as the saint, and the people around him must always be the sinners. and the deputy president, vice president then, will then be one of the biggest scapegoats. That in case anything huge happens that is going to hit the president, that's beyond the ministers, it's the deputy president the vice president then that will take the hit. Today, the incumbent president is being held on account for so many issues which he took the hit for on behalf of President Uhuru. Remember when the question of debts, Raila was raising the question of debts when he was still up. And President Ruto, then deputy president, went to one of the media houses and told one of the interviewers there that if you want to ask about the question of debt, look at me in the face and ask me. I'm the one who understands the question of debt. So basically is the final buffer zone to the presidency. So it implies you must, as a voter, you must think carefully of who then becomes the deputy president as well, because this somebody is literally the heartbeat away from the presidency.
Right.
And just to expound that further, in the instance that Martha Karua and Raila Odinga made it to presidency, today Martha Karua would be the president. So then that calls for it to reflect that anything could happen to the president. The president is a normal human being who goes to the loo like everybody else and eats like everybody else. The only difference that he has a higher responsibility in terms of decision making. So as you go to think about a deputy president, then you must also understand that this is a potential president within that term.
Okay.
Not only because they are waiting for the president to pass, of course it's not the wish, but it's because they can also impeach the president, especially if that deputy president has a lot of power, and we'll come to that in the factors that will make a presidential candidate choose a proper deputy president.
But we still see this to basically shorten Odhiambo.
Right. I love this.
Okay.
You say that there are factors that are looked at.
Yeah.
That probably the Mwananchi might not be aware about, and that they actually carry the day.
Yes.
In developed democracies, not that Kenya is not developed, those factors seemingly carry the day because it is a group of, clean people who sit around a table, probably robed in white robes, and they decide that so-and-so is a deputy president because of 1, 2, 3. Here in Kenya, as much as you more or less imagine that we still dissuade off the political aspect,
Yes.
but it is a balance of power. If you probably look at President William Ruto now and his former deputy,
Yes.
we are even told that there were issues when they were agreeing and that the person who is the current deputy president should have been the
Preferred.
the preferred heir. I mean, the preferred DP then. So what is the difference? Whether there are factors, whether there are, how feasible is it that they can work in a political context like Kenya, where the number of people that you can put in a basket, and now people are registering left, right, and center. We are asking people to go and register. That is really what carries the day. Ultimately is the vote and the money.
So,
what else beyond that?
Yeah, so let's go back to 1998 or thereabout, when President Moi finally did his last election win. And then from there onwards, there was nothing about what I call a fiat kind of choice and fiat kind of management of the deputy president's position. You remember at Kasarani, I believe you are older than me then as now, you must have seen President Moi tell the then Vice President George Saitoti, Bwana Saitoti, kama jina yako haiko, haiko. Because Saitoti was to be on the roll of the presidential candidates. Okay? And that then ushered in something new because Raila moved with Saitoti and Team Kalonzo and went to form NAC. Now from that day, that's around 2002 now, 2001, 2002.
Yes.
When the NAC coalition was formed, the arithmetic of politics in this country changed forever in terms of who becomes the vice president. It was no longer an appeasement, or not really an appeasement, it was no longer a token that the president would give to a particular community to bring them on board. It became a tool that then the president had to use to win an election. Because remember, in 2002, the person who was selected as the deputy president, the vice president then, was Kijana Wamalwa. Although, if you look at the infrastructure, then again, of the politics, Raila Odinga stood a higher ground above the vice president.
Yeah.
And that's why there was that making of a prime minister's position. Now, come to 2007, the same thing. The same thing. Because Kibaki went to election without a substantive deputy president. But he had to balance out after that. He had to bring in Kalonzo very fast to balance again the situation. But now 2013 moving forward, the constitution that you have in your hand tells you something different. That now you're not going to use this thing to balance out anything. Now we just have to use it to calculate. And then with the tightening of our election laws and our election procedures, we have shifted from an absolute rigging, and I believe the absolute rigging that happened in this country was in 2017. That was absolute rigging.
Okay.
We've moved from absolute rigging now to Ndu's son becoming a president of this country. Anybody who is born in this country today can become a president, because the IEBC as is now is not something you will tinker with very easily. And if you do so, we have the courts, which will of course put a stop to your nonsense. So that one then tells the presidential candidates that you have to do your calculation. Now we are moving from theory to math. Do the math and then let's sit. But also with 2022 election, there's something else that has developed about the deputy president's position. That then we have to understand, how do we arrive at election of a deputy president as a presidential candidate, so that we don't end up with a deputy president who is very easily impeachable. Okay? Now, those are some of the factors I want to look at. And I've given a 7-point analysis of how we are going to look at this. And number one...
Before we get there.
Sorry.
Before we get there. You just mentioned that the deputy president's position, right?
Yes.
Before has been used to balance the equation, right? On how one wins the election. But one would say it is the same thing that happened even in 2022. You know, it is, I come from this region, I have the numbers. The other region has numbers, and I will give them the position so that they come with the numbers and I get to be president. So it's, as much as it is going mathematics, still it goes back to balancing the equation to win an election.
Of course, of course. It goes back to that question of balancing the equation, but not as a token. Now as a subject of math, to have an equation that is balanced, okay? Not to just balance the election, but to use it to balance your calculation into the presidency. Okay? Now look at 2022. Some factors came at play. Number one, in this country we've said before, and it is the fact up to this moment, and we're about to see it in 2027 being challenged with the Gen Z veto vote, which I suspect will have an impact. We've had it that 3 major tribes swing the elections of this country. Kikuyu, Luo, Kalenjin. Whatever 2 of these 3 swing on one side, then they will produce the president. Then that implies that the deputy president's position, as at now, unlike then, is swinging between these 3, and so far you've seen it swing between 2. It's become a duopoly. So that's the only challenge that we have, because initially the deputy president's position as then vice president would go into a swing area. And majorly we would see it in Luhyaland, which is a swing vote area. We would see it in Cumberland, which is a swing vote area. But now it's become a bargaining chip for the duopoly between Kikuyu and Kalenjin. That's a fact from 2013. That Ruto was the deputy president, coming for the Kalenjin, Uhuru the president. Now is the president. He removed Gachagua, but he's brought in Kindiki. Why is he not going out of that? I will tell you why. The first fact is the Mount Kenya question. It is still at play because data tells us so. It is not at play because it is our bad manners. Now, if data tells us so, that Mount Kenya, up to this moment, controls about 20-30% of the Kenyan voting bloc, okay? It means you can't just ignore them. You must talk to them. And now, let's put it in further context. We are having Rigathi Gachagua, who I can say here today, confidently, that his case in the courts will set him free. to contest for presidency in 2027. I can say here today.
You think that's what?
And we will come to talk about it when it has happened.
You think it's a strategy that he's playing now?
It is a strategy that is playing out.
Okay. Yes. One thing that I want to ask, because we want to get to the 7 points that you talk about, because we're looking at those points that will actually, from what you say, will make up should be the things that a candidate should choose in his running mate. But before that, right now, people are playing Monopoly with this position, and they're saying, well, we have to have it. And it all came from the Tunataka power. If we are in this broad-based thing together, then the deputy president position must be ours, or it must be ours, or it must not be. Oh, it's already a done deal, and it remains with us. The names have come out there. But it seems that people are jostling for this position because they want to be seen and heard from a political party point of view. Is it a toss-up? Is it a position that should be used in a toss-up where they say, okay, well, if you're going to retain the presidency, then at least give us the deputy presidency? It doesn't sound like it has anything to do with how the country will be made better. It doesn't sound like it has anything to do with how presidential politics will play out or how presidential policy will be laid. It doesn't sound like it has anything to do with that. Should we be concerned?
Well, it does and it doesn't. It doesn't to the extent that this is a political calculation. And so let us excuse first the technical bit, ikae nje kidogo. On this end, we're looking at the politicians deciding for themselves what is in their best interest, okay? And we are sharing with the people so that they understand that the politicians normally really don't care about them when they're making their choices. So as they make their choices, the first interest that they're looking at is their own. That if I take Aseto and work with him, I'm certain Aseto will give me A, B, C, D, which I will share. But then number two comes the question of who is the deputy president now for the people. So first, the deputy president is for the president before for the people.
Yes.
Then the people come in. How do the people come in? Now we look at, is this a politically charged person or is this a political technocrat? We are first moving from a politically charged person, a polarizing character like Rigathi, and we are moving to political technocracy, where we are saying we need a deputy who is a stable character around the president, who has the emotional intelligence around the president, and who, apart from advocating for the interests of the people, also balances so that the presidency remains stable. Okay? So yes, it is one that the people, the presidential candidates don't really care much about you when they're making that decision. That is why President Ruto disregarded these people and told them, you know what, mmechagua Kindiki, lakini kwa ile hesabu yangu, the mobilizer, the tinga, who can help me move Mount Kenya, ni huyu, Rigathi. First is his interest before the interest of the people. Then later on he says, okay, now we've crossed the bridge.
I don't need this guy anymore.
Well, I may need you, but if you know how to sit around the table. Yeah, because where money is made, you don't ask so many questions.
Be a pretty.
Yeah, you
boy, sit in the corner.
You know? So he realizes, moving forward, this guy seems not to be speaking from the same side as me, because we must first fight as a team before we do our things inside. But again, in that question of the presidency, the other point comes, it's a mathematical question of the ordinates. You know how the ordinates work? Where we talk about X, Y, and where they meet.
Yes.
So when the president is the ordinate, you cannot subordinate him. Now when you subordinate him, what does he do? He gets you out because you're not balancing the equation. And that we saw then. So deputy presidential candidates must have that technocracy, know-how. They must not only be politicians, but they must also be people who have an understanding of how the government runs. Rigathi knew how the government ran, but I think there was a problem. And that problem is, if you meet a self-made man, know you are staring into the horrors of unskilled labor.
Repeat that again.
But
if you meet a self-made person, know that you're staring into the horrors of unskilled labor. Who made you is a very important question. So then the first factor was the Mount Kenya arithmetic, which as at now, I've said that the duopoly of Kenyan politics leaves it as a preserve of Mount Kenya. in 2027, I don't see somebody else coming from outside in the question of President Ruto. In the question of Kalonzo presidency may come up with a deputy president from Kikuyu land as well, unfortunately.
Why Kalonzo? He has not even indicated that he wants to run.
Of course, we're just analyzing, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we're just analyzing. We're just trying to speculate.
Hypothetically speaking.
Yeah, hypothetically speaking. If he contests, which I know he will.
Okay.
And the game at play, which I see happening perfectly, is that the courts will, as I've said, set Rigathi Gachagua free and say, no, this thing was done wrongly, and this impeachment, etc. So now it can't apply backwards; it applies forward.
Yeah, it has many flaws.
So then Rigathi is set to contest. Do you think Rigathi will agree, if he has the chance to contest, leave for Kalonzo? Okay.
Maybe not.
It's a question for thought. Okay. And I can tell you that we will come here and discuss it when it happens.
Yes.
So when he's set free, then Kalonzo, choosing from the mountain, cannot function for him. It will not work for him. Because then Rigathi at that time is contesting for presidency. Which means Rigathi must then look for somebody else. Unless a miracle happens and they say, tunataka kuachana na ulafi wa siasa. The greed of politics, we are putting it aside and we are going the 202 way. Okay? Then that brings us to the next question. What if Sifuna, who my friend Abby has now shown us clearly that they're going for the presidency, then who does Sifuna choose as a deputy president? Then Sifuna is the only person who switches off the Mount Kenya card completely because he's operating in very new waters. And those new waters will make him choose a deputy who cannot be identified from a tribe, who will just be seen for who he is or who she is. And I highly suspect will be a she. Okay? Now, which other candidate do we have? Wanjigi. Wanjigi, of course, has Willis. I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon. And I think that is it so far. So let's look at the biggest
But
contender.
if you
What are you
look
talking
at,
about? The other people who are running for the presidency.
Like
We're talking
who?
about Matiang'i is running for the presidency.
Maraga is running for
Maraga is running for the presidency. Martha Karua is running for the presidency. In the last conversations that they've had over the last couple of days, they talked about the fact that when I run for president, this is what I want to essentially do and fulfill.
Maraga is quite a good candidate. Is the fantasy boyfriend you'll never have. Or fantasy girlfriend I'll never have. You know that this is the best.
You know that this is what I need, but
You
you're
know
gonna
what I
you're gonna take the bad boy who's gonna make sure
because it's not abusive enough or it's not dramatic enough. You're like, boring man. Let me get Adaseto.
But I'm wondering, Odhiambo, because when we talk about all the presidential candidates, and then you get to Jimmy Wanjigi, the running mate is neither Kikuyu nor Kalenjin.
Yes, because Jimmy Wanjigi's substantive is who? Is Kikuyu. Then he goes for, he already has a Luo running mate.
But I don't think that's even in his agenda in terms of the tribal card that he's playing here. I think it's very clear what the position has been. That if you don't fix the economy, then you have no business looking for a position of leadership.
That is true. That is true in terms of what he's looking for the people. But I'm saying what he's looking for himself. Who do you think Wanjigi can work with for himself? It is Willis. For now. Something may happen, something may change. But can we look at, let's dump in the horses, hypothetically, and leave the donkeys away. Okay? The horses in this race for me, so I could be wrong, One is President Ruto. 2 is Kalonzo Musyoka. 3 is Edwin Sifuna. Okay? So these are 3 horses for me. So I tie it down to the 2 main horses.
Okay.
Who is President Ruto, and then the united opposition in the name of Kalonzo Musyoka. But that card is about to be spoiled with the setting free of who? Of Rigathi Gachagua.
Oh, let's take a break. We have to.
Not that I doubt the process that is going on in courts for Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua. I think I've been one of those very vocal voices around the illegality of impeachment. There's a point I even indicated that why is a gospel written to the Corinthians being read to the Galatians? Because you are impeaching a gentleman on issues of Nairobi County, and you want people in Siaya, where I come from, who probably have never been to Nairobi, to vote for that particular, factor of impeachment. So there are issues around it. But in the event that the court releases Mheshimiwa Rigathi, 2 things. 1, what is the guarantee that is a presidential candidate? Number 1. Number 2, What are the possibilities? That, of course, we note that there is a delay within the United Opposition in naming their flag bearer because of a Sifuna factor. In the event that they pick Mheshimiwa Edwin Sifuna as their flag bearer, given the kind of effort that he has put, the ramifying, force that the youth have come and mobilized around him, who would be their deputy presidential candidate? And then lastly, there could be negotiations between Linda Ground, ODM Linda Ground, and Linda Mwananchi. And we have seen that Mheshimiwa party leader, the youth leader, my senator from Siaya, has already expressed interest. So that he wants to be, tunataka hii power, and that we have to have a candidate who told you. Where does that leave in the event that the negotiation is successful? Where does that leave Mheshimiwa Edwin Sifuna if they accept to join together with Linda Ground for pacifying the spirit of Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga? Good.
So let's start from the grantees. Because Rigathi Gachagua will be let free to contest. That is a surety I'm giving 70 times. When he's let free, his ego, is proven beyond doubt that he's a man who pursues himself. In my view, politically, he's a man who is in his 40s, 45, thereabout. Having serious midlife crisis politically because he's finding himself at that time. And it's a very serious moment in life. For those of us who have hit 45, we know what happens there. Now, yes.
I can't relate, guys.
Well, I'm not yet, so I don't know what happens there.
There's something that happens.
Okay.
Where you try to find yourself. Because it's the moment where your age mates have, they're talking about their grandchildren. Some are also talking about their children, and you're right there and trying to find out, should I be having grandchildren? Should I be having that successful golf hobby or what? And so that's where Rigathi finds himself. And if he gets a small chance that he can vie for the presidency, he said yesterday when he was walking back to his car from the courts that when I become president next year, by October, this thing will be sorted. And Rigathi has told us severally that trust me for what I say, because what I say is what I am. And so that one shows that there's a guarantee that he will actually contest. Now,
whether within the United Opposition or not.
He will, in fact, Rigathi believes that he is who he says he is. He's the king of the mountain, and it then becomes a presidential candidate. Automatically, those other people have to serve him. And a man who is in a midlife crisis politically is not a man you can talk to. No. That's a man who is finding himself, and so, unless he finds himself in the interim, okay? Now, the question number 2 is the possibilities of the Sifuna question.
Yeah.
Well, this perhaps the most interesting part for me. That Sifuna, for him to become an automatic presidential candidate of the United Opposition, the United Opposition must commit political suicide, akin to what Orengo Jim and Professor Nyang'o did in 2002. And I believe you know what happened.
Yeah.
After Raila completely dominating Luo Nyanza, these two people who are outliers had to come back to the fold. And so it calls upon the United Opposition to commit political suicide and join Sifuna and make him president. And that's the only way Sifuna can be president.
If what?
If the United Opposition commits political suicide and says it doesn't matter what we want as individuals.
You know, we put up a poll, and the poll says Sifuna is leading 68% of the preferred presidential candidate of everybody who's there. So
of course.
Would that be, just based off that and what we see on ground, would that be a basis then for United Opposition to look and say, he actually has numbers?
Yes. He has, especially from the sample you're polling from a sample that is what I would call elite. Because, the middle class, they have access to internet, they're watching SpiceFM every morning, they're enlightened.
And they love SpiceFM.
And of course, they love SpiceFM.
They're spicing up their lives.
They're spicing up their lives every morning.
So
that's a very select sample size. If you expand the sample size and also include the other demographics,
But these, the people who attend Sifuna rallies are not the people that you are referring to.
That is true.
They could be the ones who voted the 68.
That is very true. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That if we expand the sample size, we could get a more accurate result. And I'm not saying that Sifuna is not popular. I'm saying he is. And for that reason, the United Opposition must join him and commit political suicide for Sifuna to become.
So you're saying without the essential dropping of all that they aspire to and joining Sifuna, that there's no way that Sifuna, if he actually opens his mouth and says, now I want to be president, until he does that, you can't really be sure. Secondly, are you saying that the only way he can be president is everybody collapses their political ambitions and then joins him?
That is very true. That's what I'm saying.
Why?
Because of this. That at the end of the day, if you go to the ground and understand the politics, how it works, people normally elect based on a few issues. One of them is the biasness of their identity, what we normally call tribalism. And number two is consuming hook, line, and sinker, the propaganda as spewed by the political class. Okay? And thirdly is the money question. Okay? So that's what I'm basically saying is narrative, control, you having the emotions on the side, you having logistics, and then finally you are able to mobilize to the station, to the polling stations. So Sifuna needs to be made the president. He cannot become. He must be made a president.
All our presidents are made president.
Exactly. And that confirms what I'm saying.
So it is not unique to Sifuna.
It's not unique to Sifuna that he is going to be made the president if the United Opposition decides to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I'm saying, and I'm urging the audience to look at it this way. The people we are having vying for presidency, do they look like, if you ask yourself the question, do they look like they can put their hands down, like we always say in Luo, they put their hands down and say, no, it is this gentleman that
They go body pain.
They go body pain.
Put your hands
Sorry. we are allowing him. We're supporting him. Then that means there's going to be negotiations. That will happen then. Okay? So yes, he can be, he will be, if he's made.
Can I throw in a curveball?
Please.
How about Sifuna as a candidate that is supported by Kenyans, right, who is out there right now and is showing every signs of even many pushing him to be, with another individual that is being appreciated across the country despite of where he's coming from, Ndindi Nyoro, a candidature of the two. Would that then change the matrix that you talk about?
It will change significantly because
that they do not need these other political parties to break their ambitions, just the two of them as wild stallions running for that seat.
One thing I want you not to forget is that in political communication, the messengers are always the politicians. That is why government policy, for it to be very successful, is normally communicated through politicians and not through the administrative angles. For it to gain legitimacy, it's passed through politicians. Now, for you to gain legitimacy politically, you must talk to politicians. If you remember Mishuki, just before 2013 elections, he said, ukitaka kuongea na jamii ya Wagikuyu, utaongea ukipitia Uhuru. You can't talk to Gikuyu without Uhuru. There's a reason as to why it is structured as such. So my answer to you is this, Aseto, that yes, Sifuna as he is, still must talk to the rest. Because it is these people who will make him. Remember, if you understand politics in its very basic essence, people have donated their power to think, number one, majorly, to think for themselves, to somebody to give that direction. That's why we have the concept of kingpins. That once Dennis decides for us where we are going, that's right. Okay? And so many people believe they've been made to believe that they're not able to understand. They're not able to think for themselves. So their political leaders think for themselves. To answer his question, the third question, Linda Grant and Linda Mwananchi striking a deal. This is the most potent card for ODM to get the deputy president position. But right now, they're messing it up. I've always said it all the times I've come here. ODM, especially as led by Oburu, who says he was Raila's confidant? Who says Raila was his twin brother? Who says Raila?
Yes.
He says that he does not understand that Raila was having this fellow called Sifuna as his exit plan. He's saying he doesn't understand that they were meant to get into government as a negotiation tactic. So as of now, you can see all the things that are happening in in ODM, they are very much dismissive about Sifuna. But today, ODM to gain legitimacy, to regain legitimacy, what has to happen?
But
They have to swing back to
Sifuna.
They have to swing back to Sifuna. If they can't swing back to Sifuna, ODM is done, taken away.
So the D in ODM becomes done.
It's done. In fact, it's orange done movement.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
I'm wondering because you mentioned that Mheshimiwa Sifuna, again going back to the Sifuna factor, has to speak to some political big heads.
Yes.
But remember that over time, we have seen transitional changes.
Right.
And the political context of Kenya is driven by certain things. It is money and ethnicity. Yeah. There are people who cannot vote for certain people just because you don't come from my area. But if you look at the votes, like as it is right now, and earlier on you alluded to a swing vote, and you mentioned a tribe as a swing,
Right.
2 tribes. Yeah.
Yes.
But I see a silent swing vote. The 8.2 plus million who did not vote in 2022. The presidential candidate was declared at 7.1. That was William Ruto. With Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, Joey, God rest his soul in peace,
I like
coming
that.
second at 6.9.
Right.
If Mheshimiwa Edwin Sifuna whips up this digital vote and says, I'm not talking to anyone else, I know you want to negotiate, but I want to talk to the voters directly. And like what he's doing right now, he is mobilizing with young people like Abi and all the other and millions out there. Where does that leave the political big heads? Does Mheshimiwa Sifuna still need
You
the
can't-
political negotiators?
Simple answer, you can't ignore them.
But does he need them?
He needs them. He needs them. Look, he needs them in this way. Sifuna is already too big that Linda Ground in ODM are drooling at his masses.
So it is them who
Literally.
need him. He does not
Of
need
course.
them. Yeah.
But I'm giving an example.
Yeah.
So for this example, Linda Ground, they're drooling at his masses.
Yeah.
The opposition candidates, do you think they're not drooling? They're also drooling.
Yeah.
They're like, oh boy.
We wish
I
we
wish I
were
was
there.
you know. So, but they're gonna play hard. Why are they playing hard?
Yeah.
Because when they say no, then they have a mass that goes with them. And that becomes a spoiling factor. So they have to, Sifuna must find a way. Because, I mean, the challenge with men is that we're always walking around with our egos. And like women will be very easy with each other. But as we're walking around with our egos, even if we know...
Some women, right?
most of them.
Okay.
Men, we know this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Like now we know that in the calculations of 2027, the only other candidate who is right to face President Ruto is Sifuna. All of us in this room know. And everybody else knows. But the challenge is, we're walking around with our egos saying, kwani ye ni nani? Once you start hearing kwani ye ni nani, it shows you they're disregarding. So that then informs my thinking that Sifuna then needs to reach out to them and say, gentlemen, you know what? Let's have tea.
Or that should be the other way around, because it seems that he's onto something and should just carry on with his business. Depending again,
I agree.
the man hasn't opened his mouth.
I agree.
Yeah.
Regardless of what people around him are saying,
I agree.
the man has not opened his mouth to say that he
hasn't
wants
declared.
to be president.
Yes.
Until and unless he does that, everything that we say is inference, right? So at the point where we're saying that he needs to then offer some kind of olive branch, I mean, it's clear that he's onto something that's magic at the moment, and that it's people who should approach him and not the other way around.
He's using the power of mystery, which is beautiful in politics. And that is Raila's card, if you remember.
Yeah.
Raila, we all knew that Raila was going to contest, but he will say, contest wapi? I'm not going to contest. But we all knew he was going to contest. Like now, we all know Sifuna will contest for the presidency.
Okay.
He's just playing that normal card. We know it. I mean, play mysterious, let people think, are you going to contest? Are you not going to contest? It's a beautiful thing. Yeah? You don't want something very obvious. So he will declare with time.
Okay, let's see that. Because I really want to look at these 7 points. And I don't know if we can do that in 3 minutes.
In 3 minutes,
But the
of course.
thing is that here is that we can talk about the antics around the politics, but the truth of the matter is that Kenyans must activate. I keep saying this, that if you don't activate by registering and voting, all of these things, Odhiambo, don't matter. They don't matter. The 8.2 million who sat at home in 2022.
What will make them vote in 2027?
This is the thing. Nothing. Will they take voters' cards? Will they go and actually show up on that Tuesday and come out and vote? Because the thing is that you could have a magical moment today where people are going from city to city in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't translate to an overwhelming number of people who got on a voting platform, you cannot contest the status quo.
The excitement must be phenomenal. The excitement must be beyond normal for us to fight voter apathy. If we have a normal card of Ruto Kalonzo in 2027, I will tell you that voter apathy will be the only competitor in that race. But if we want to have an actual change in terms of the presidency, then it must be an exciting character with an exciting momentum. That means committing political suicide. And as I've told you, it's possibly not going to happen. Now, let's look at these things in a very quick way. Number one, I said Mount Kenya question was very interesting.
Yes.
Then number two was the ethnic and coalition engineering. And that's why you hear Wanga and Tim saying we must have 50-50. And in terms of the ethnic thing, the Luo already disorganized. Absolutely. They are giving up on it. And they're taking this. Yes.
Osiro says no.
Osiro knows that the Luos are very disorganized in this election. Because they're speaking from...
Some Luos are disorganized. But proceed, please.
Collegiate. You know, we can say, for example, that, where she comes from.
Yes. Ogala.
Where she comes from. That side.
Yes.
When she comes here, we will not say that she is a Kenyan. We will say, where she comes from, they behave like this. But she's a very organized person.
Yeah. Okay. That's why I'm saying some, because it's not all.
Anyway, so the coalition engineering, already you can see ODM going for a partner who is far away from the normal card, and that is Hassan Joho. Right now, they're moving towards Hassan Joho. Wanga said it not once, she has said it now twice. That Hassan Joho is our candidate for deputy president. That's coalition engineering. Will Ruto accept it? No. Why? There are no numbers with Hassan Joho. Where are the numbers with him? It's with the Kindiki. That's still the fact. Sifuna, if he goes for the presidency, where is he going to get the deputy president position? Gen Z is going to have something too exciting that is a paradigm shift that the politicians will be like, what? What is this boy doing? He's moved our cheese from where it was. Now it is something else. Look at him getting a younger who is 27 years or 38 years as the deputy president. This is interesting. And Sifuna card is a wild card. Then number three is a subordinate partner, which I was talking about. You can't have a deputy president candidate who is loud and strong. They must be subordinate. Let's go back to the Bible. They must be submissive, quote unquote. That, you cannot just ask questions. Even if things are happening, you just keep quiet because it is your husband. It's sort of a thing.
Okay.
Then number four for me, and that subordinate partner is a choice of the president and not a choice of the people. Okay? The ethnic and coalition engineering is also a choice of the president for his own sake. Mount Kenya question is a choice of the president still. That is either be it Sifuna or who. They have to look at that equation and balance out. Number four is a demographic alignment, and that's what I was saying, the wild card. Even President Ruto today needs a deputy president who will rebrand properly and look like Gen Z and have a narrative of the Gen Z. And have a narrative of people like Aseto who are just entering their 36th or 35th year. Okay?
Like a syllabus mbio sana.
Okay. So demographic alignment is very important because the deputy president matches your inadequacy. That if I don't have that Gen Z vote, I need somebody who looks like them. Okay? Sifuna, for example, in this, for me, in the demographic alignment, he would go for somebody like Wanjigi, and I've said this before. That a Sifuna Wanjigi ticket is a very exciting one as well. Because what does Wanjigi do? He brings in the resources, which Sifuna doesn't have. Wanjigi can lobby, literally, billions of shillings in one sit down. And it's done. Okay?
Mount Kenya Foundation.
Mount Kenya Foundation and outside the country. The number five, we are looking at the financial and logistical muscle. And that's what I've just said, actually. That the deputy president must be able to not have his own money, because one who has his own money is independent. You don't want, for example, again, in the traditional man who wants a wife who just sits there and does not work. But you want a wife who, yes, she does not have her money, but she can get money from XYZ, but it's not hers. You get
Yes.
You get the point. Then,
As long as that XYZ is a legitimate.
It's a legitimate space of getting the money, but it does not have too much to run away.
Yeah.
Then number six, institutional stability with grassroots mobilization. You must the deputy president must be very balanced in terms of having one institutional history or memory of how the government works. I said that before.
Or how they get impeached.
Or how they get impeached. Yes,
Or
so
not
that
impeached.
yes, so that they know how to sit around. And also, there must be grassroots popular. That's why Kindiki today, by data, in terms of President Ruto, is proving that he can
Mobilize on the ground.
And he's won several by-elections there. That notwithstanding, if you look at somebody like Sifuna, who is the other horse in this case, needs somebody like Wanjigi who can quickly develop structures for him on the ground or help him develop those structures. Okay? Kalonzo already has structures. He only needs to multiply them across the country. People like our fantasy president, that is Maraga, is our fantasy president. We all can agree that is the best, but no. I don't know why.
You
But
just never know.
maybe it's we just never know.
Never say no.
Matiang'i,
You just never know.
I don't know where he will choose his deputy, because it looks like his deputy will be chosen for him, because even him is not himself. And lastly, the president in waiting image, which means as the presidential candidates choose the deputy president, they must choose one who inspires and gives confidence to the markets that in the instance anything goes wrong, this guy can actually take over.
It's a worthy stand-in.
Yes, even if you don't trust me, but I have a deputy that things can move with. Now, if you look at President Ruto, who is that? That looks like it inspires a lot of confidence in the market and in the diplomatic corps. Your guess is as good as mine. If you look at Sifuna, Wanjigi gives that confidence. The only thing is that people do not understand, the common man in the street does not understand this debt question. He odious debt hawaelewi. So he needs a presidential candidate who talks the language of the people, but then a deputy who talks the language of these
the
others. Okay? The only challenge with Wanjigi, akona ile pesa ambayo anaweza kimbia peke yake.
Well, these are all very interesting insights, and it will be interesting to see. I mean, if you put them in a pot, we don't know which one might be picked. That's for sure. But we thank you, at least for opening our minds to options, looking at these and what it would actually look like. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Let's see what the courts say if your theory comes true. Odhiambo, Otieno, thank you for being with us this morning, and we continue these conversations.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.